Yo, what is up, guys? Shinobi here, back again with another video for you guys. And today we are back with another video here. I think I've reacted to this dude before. He did a video talking about Hoyo's playing the long game, and honestly, as of right now, with Honkai Star Rail and where it's at the moment, I think they are playing the long game. And I'll explain my theory either after this video if he mentions it. But I have a theory, I think, now that I've played through Genshin Impact and now I've seen Honkai Star Rail's second anniversary. I have a theory of what they're doing here, if y'all haven't figured it out already. But either way, let's go ahead and get straight into this.
Alright,
And see what
today
he
I'd
got
like
to
to
say.
talk a little bit about the state of Honkai Star Rail and basically how we got to where we're at in terms of how different parts of the community are perceiving the game. This is something I've kind of been thinking about for a while now, so I figured it'd be a neat point of discussion. What really got me thinking about this was my lack of desire to play through the 3.1 story. For the record, I did actually play through and finish that story just a few nights ago, basically just under a week before the next story drops in 3.2. For some of you, that might seem normal. Like, I know I have friends that put off doing stuff until the last moment possible, but for me, it's generally the opposite. Like, I've always been someone that plays through the story when it drops, partially because I don't.
I was the same way. Shit, I was making hella content on the story of this game. Every single time there was a story, I'm on that shit. If there's an event that I wanted to showcase, boom, on that shit. I have a whole playlist for Honkai Star Rail. Majority of it is me playing through story. But he ain't wrong when I say that for some reason now, I could care less. And I think it's because of how the story's being presented, like the presentation of the story now compared to how it was back then. Not to mention all the yapping, essentially, like all the useless dialogue that they be showing them to put in time so that like it doesn't make sense. I feel like with Belobog and the Zhengzhou Lofu and hell even Penacony to an extent that they were going with the more show don't tell thing. Though they kind of gave up midway through Penacony in my opinion with the black screen white text thing. There was a couple of cool moments here and there, but I think they gave up halfway through for whatever reason. They kind of choked it up. Still a good, decent story, but I feel like it did not need to be 10 hours long. I'm going to be real with you. 10 hours to 12 hours long. Hell no. It should not have been that long. Should not have been that long. And honestly, I'm going to be real. I remember more about Belobog and the Lofu story more than Penacony's. Outside of maybe some things going on with Firefly, Robin, Sunday obviously being the villain at the end, and obviously Archeron because she had a whole mystery vibe around her. Outside of those things, I couldn't really tell you a lot of what the yapping was. Like all the basically all the stuff you had to push the X button through. Like I could not tell you. Whereas with the other ones that we had gotten previously, I could probably remember a lot of what was going on through that story and actually, recall some important details. Like the show told, like I don't know what it is, but they kind of just gave up on the show don't tell, and now it's kind of like, okay, we're gonna put a bunch of text in front of you and call it a day, with you playing the game maybe for 5 to 10 minutes throughout the story, and then maybe a 5 to 15 minutes of the cutscenes. I'd say maybe only out of the whole Penacony story, 25 minutes of it, maybe outside maybe some important parts, I was actually in there. The rest of it, my brain was empty. And if you look back at my reaction, because I did a whole 10-hour live stream of it, outside maybe the really important parts and like maybe some of the animation parts, I was not in there, bro. My brain was off. My brain was off, bro. I'm gonna be real with you, because a lot of that yapping that was going on in there, I could care less about. It wasn't anything important. It didn't have anything to do with the story, so my brain was off. But that's what happens when you don't show. You tell instead of showing it, bro. Not to mention the presentation. Like a lot of the time, you're kind of just standing around. I could go on and yap about it. I'll be real. That's a whole nother video on its own. But I digress. There's a reason why a lot of people are kind of giving up on the story here.
I don't want to be spoiled, but also because I'm genuinely
this is
interested
coming for
in seeing
somebody
where
like
the story
me
goes
who plays
and
more
then
of the
what
story than
happens
the end
during it.
game.
But after 3.0,
I tried the
going
end game
into
a couple of
3.1,
times.
that desire just wasn't really there. While I logged in and I did the events and I kept clearing endgame when the resets happened, I didn't really ever want to sit down and play through the new real content that the game had. That said, after finally playing through it the other night, I kinda just sat with it for a moment and tried to figure out what was my logic for putting it off for so long. Like, was I worried about the 10 hours that it would have taken me to play through it? I mean, no, I actually don't have a problem with stories being long as there are decent parts that I can stop throughout it. Was it because I wasn't interested in the HSR story anymore? I mean, definitely not. I'd actually say I'm still pretty interested in seeing what happens in the story and where it goes. Maybe it was because the characters weren't interesting to me? I mean, also no, because I actually like most of them that were a part of it. So, what is it then? Well, honestly, my conclusion was that all this really comes down to is the state of the game that is surrounding the story. Something that's really important to realize with this kind of stuff is that how the game is going will shape the way that people are feeling about it. And that's kind of like a duh moment, but I want to point it out here because it's so relevant in this case. Like, I think it's pretty undeniable that there's been some problems with the game recently. For the past, I would say, like, 6
Yeah, recently. There's been problems with the games since we got done with Pentacony. HP inflation, your old characters basically becoming useless. How even now people are complaining about the fact that the 4 stars outside of maybe a couple of them are pretty much useless now. You can't even clear just using only 4 stars. And that's crazy because Genshin Impact, it's been shown that you can clear with not only 4 stars, but 4 stars with 4-star weapons and from 1.0. That's been shown that it's been possible before. I reacted to a video where somebody actually did that. I don't think you could waltz in here with only 4-star relics and artifacts. I mean, not 4-star relics, 4-star Lycone. Oh my god, my brain. 4-star characters with their Lycones being 4 stars and do anything with it. You actually have to get some 5-star Lycones. And even then, that might not be enough. Which is insane. So your old characters are useless. Your 4 stars are useless. Power creep is getting out of control. The story, for whatever reason, keeps giving you now white background instead of black background. So now it's white background with black text. Like, what is going on? The presentation is not there. Like, all the stuff that made the game good, whether it be its story or the presentation on how they're doing it, like, in the gameplay, like, I don't know what's going on, man. I don't. It doesn't make sense to me. And it's the reason why people are complaining so much, because they used to be killing it, bro. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on, man.
months or so, power creep and HP inflation have been on people's minds. There's been countless videos and discussion about this topic, yet from the actual company until recently we didn't actually have any news as to how this may improve going forward. We did finally get info about buffs coming back in February, but they're not coming for a long time, and they're also only for a small group of characters. I'd also say the story was something that people were concerned about. There were some complaints about the story itself, but definitely a lot more about the presentation of the story. For example, we had complaints about the black screen white text stuff for a long time. We've had complaints that the characters didn't have enough animations, and we also had complaints about the pacing of the story and how most of the puzzles in it are seemingly there to pad time rather than being meaningful content. Personally, I think a pretty egregious example of this is how the early 3.1 story at the Grove followed the exact same story beats that we just played back in 3.0. The god of the area gave us trials, being Nikador in 3.0.
See, this is what I mean by presentation being just not there. Like, what the hell is going on? No facial expressions, no movement, just text. Like, come on, bro. Like, if I was to be playing through that, I would get bored as hell. And you want to keep your players in. Like, I might as well read a book. Man. I don't know what's going on.
In Season 3.1, and only after completing those random trials could we move forward again. While there were improvements to the story mentioned back in that special edition developer radio in 3.0, at the time of writing this script, we haven't...
And keep in mind, these stories are 6 hours long, bro. That's 6 hours of yapping. And maybe within that 6 hours of yapping, you're probably playing actually the game for 5 to 10 minutes. That is insanity. And maybe they'll put a cutscene in there. Maybe a 3 to 5 minute cutscene. But the rest of it, nah. Like, I don't get it.
Seen anything super concrete in game yet in terms of changes, though hopefully in 3.2 that'll improve. There are also some complaints about there not being enough content in the game apart from the story to do. For example, the endgame rotations happen at a super slow pace even when compared to Hoyo's other games like ZZZ, where it feels like you always have endgame to do. And on top of that, it feels like each patch has less and less effort put into the different events that people can mess around in, like with the different minigames, and that's not even mentioning the lack of things to actually use the characters we collected in like combat events. Both Both of those things are problems that we still haven't gotten any news on. That might seem like a lot, but this is all important to note here because these are all things that people could potentially be unhappy with. Like, maybe power creep doesn't matter to you. Well, what about the lack of events? Maybe you don't care about events. Okay, then what about the presentation of the story? What if you don't care about the story and you want to just play your older characters? Are you able to do that? No matter what part of the game you look at.
Like, basically, yeah, he's about to say it, but basically, it doesn't matter what you care about. If you only care about story, well, the story is garbage to a degree. You know, you only care about the end game. Well, good luck using your old. Well, then good luck with that. HP inflation is killing that shit. You want to play your older characters? That's cooked too, because they can't keep up. You want to play mini games? There's barely any in the game right now that you actually care about. Like, no matter where you look, there's a problem, bro, and that's a problem. That shouldn't be a thing. Like, how we went from the first anniversary where we was cooking with everything to now we're not cooking with anything at all is crazy. So we went from cooking in the kitchen to burning down the kitchen. Doesn't make any sense.
There's stuff that isn't good, even if you like the other parts of it. In my personal case, I'm actually enjoying the story for the most part, but what I'm not enjoying is the fact that I need stupid amounts of investments to actually use my old favorite characters. So that's how the game is now. But if you go back and look at how the community was at the first anniversary, it was vastly different.
Bro,
we were coming off of the high of the free
the
Dr.
first
ratio
anniversary,
and
man.
Never. We previously had
that first anniversary, man. Holy, we were on the biggest high of our lives, bro. And this is off of us coming through Genshin Impact, where they basically were giving us scraps for an anniversary every single year for 4 years straight. And then here comes Honkai Star Rail on its first anniversary. Free limited 5-star. That was a really good, you know, single target DPS and a follow-up attacker. Plus 10 summons, plus primo gems. Like, it couldn't get any better than that, bro. And the story was kicking ass. This meme was probably everywhere right now. At that point, bro. And on top, yeah, the game, yeah, and it was the best. It's the best mobile game. Like, bro, what happened?
We had really good events like Ethereum Wars and the Ghost Hunting event. We were also still at the beginning of Pika Coney, with new hype characters like Sparkle with her banger trailer, Black Swan releasing to finally pair with a fan favorite character in Kafka, as well as Acheron, who was not only teased months in advance back at the Game Awards, but who's also the May XP from the previous games. The story had better pacing too. For example, any puzzles we had, like the rooms where you walked on walls, were there to get you from point A to point B to continue the story, whereas in 3.x the puzzles were there to pad time, like I said earlier. On top of that, it felt like the devs were listening to the players. We were getting one quality update after another, and all of the characters across all their various plot lines really gave us a lot to think about, especially the characters that we didn't really expect a lot from. Like, be honest for a moment here, going into 2.0, did you ever think a character like Adventurine would get as much development as he did, with his entire backstory essentially?
I'm gonna be real. When it came to the characters, I thought were gonna be really important. I thought the Flame Chase Mansion thing, I thought they were gonna be the villains. They weren't. I don't know what happened to them. They kind of got off-screened by Acheron. Acheron, obviously, she was a big portion of the story. Firefly, she was a big portion of the story. Black Swan, kind of here and there, but also a big portion of the story. I did not expect Adventurine to get any screen time or barely any screen time at all. I didn't even care about him. But I played this through the story. He had one of the best stories I'd played through. As a background character, by the way, keep in mind, all the stuff he was doing was stuff going on in the background. Like, that is crazy. I'm still mad, though, because they kind of, like, I was hyped most because I thought the Flame Chase Mansion was about to be the main villain, bro. I was not expecting Robin and Sunday to be the villain. That was a crazy, like, what happened to the Flame Chase Mansion? They kind of just got off screen. Like, what? Like, y'all, come on now.
Playing out over the 2.1 patch. What about Firefly and how she basically became the community's collective anime girlfriend overnight once 2.x?
Jesus Christ, the chaos around Firefly and Robin was ridiculous, bro. It was stupid, too. It was stupid. It was a lot of stupid. It was the shipping community, let's be real. The chaos around her was fucking ridiculous.
launched. These were new characters that had insane
Oh
amounts of
man, there were
development
so many
over a
people
short
that was
period of
mad that it
time
was
that quickly
Callus
became new
instead of
fan
Stele for
favorites.
whatever
There was
reason.
also a
I
ton
don't
of
know,
stuff
bro.
that Hoyo was doing for
I don't
HSR
know.
outside of the game, but it all directly related to what was going on in it. For example, everything that came with Robin, with the big concerts and an entire album created for her that the community could get behind. Like, looking back on it, all of it was actually pretty crazy. The perception of the game was in a wildly different spot because the game was actually producing content that,
Like, bro, the perception of Honkai Star Rail a year ago compared to now, it's night and day, bro. Before, everybody was praising it. Everybody. It didn't matter who. It was your mom, your dog, your favorite YouTuber. If they were playing this game, bro, they were praising the hell out of it. It was doing everything right. It was doing everything right. Obviously, there was still power creep issues, but it wasn't even as nearly as bad as it is now. But outside of that, you could still use the 4-star characters. You could still use the 5-star characters, old and new. The story was peak. They were doing what the players wanted, bro. I don't know what happened. It is like night and day to compare what's going on now to how it was a year ago. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense.
people were pretty happy with overall. Like, when a game's atmosphere is good and it's fun to engage with it, the players are happy and the perception improves. On the other hand, when you have a stagnant game and there's very little to be excited about, you get to the point where we're at now. You might be seeing where I'm going with all this, but to spell it out, basically everything that was going on back then felt like big hitters one after the other in comparison to how things are now, where everything feels slow and low effort.
Bro, I'm gonna be
Everything
real.
the
Back
community
then,
has
Honkai Star
seemingly
Rail
wanted to
couldn't
happen
miss.
since that period of time is either coming way down the line or is on the back burner in terms of release schedule. And that's okay, right? Like, at least we know it's
Bro,
coming.
what Honkai Star Rail felt like in one point in its first anniversary is how WoW feels right now. WoW did it in reverse, where 1.0 was kind of eh, and then they got to the 2.0 and they just been cooking ever since. Which with Honkai Star Rail, they were cooking from the start, and now they're getting cooked. Like, I don't know, bro. I don't know.
Stuff, but in the meantime, it makes people feel like HSR really isn't the big dog for Hoyo anymore.
It's not.
Or in other words, that the game isn't.
I'm gonna share my theory at the end, because saying that HSR doesn't feel like it's the big dog anymore. I have a theory at the end to what they're doing, bro.
Hoyo's focus at all. If it was, we'd probably have a better timeline for this stuff, or more content to play, or whatever else, but instead it's either being put into marketing, or more likely, Hoyo's other games. I've talked about the Hoyoverse ecosystem before, and I think that's really relevant here. Like, if Hoyo wanted to, HSR could be the best game on the market.
It should be the best game on the market, bro. There's no reason for a company making the amount of money it's making right now for this game not to be the best game ever made. And it's like, bro, come on, bro. Come on. There's no way this game shouldn't be the best, bro. No way, bro. I love that. But that's how much I love this game, bro. There's no way this game isn't the best. There's no freaking way.
But they don't want it to be because they have other games they want you to play, other games they want to develop, and also they have a player base big enough that they can do less work on HSR and still have people play it despite the lack of content the game may have.
Okay, well, there you go. He just pulled out my theory right there. he just said the theory. So the theory that I was going to say at the end of this video is I have a feeling that Honkai Star Rail, well, not Honkai Star Rail, that Hoyoverse as a company, their plan with these games that they're making is they will make the game good at the start. They will get it to the point where there's players, get the whales, but keep this in mind, the whales are the most important people in the game, by the way. Get the whales, get the dolphins, get your casual players, get everybody yapping about the game, everybody praising it, yada, 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 kind of the same way that people were doing with Genshin Impact in the beginning and Honkai Star Rail in the beginning. But once they got their whales, once they got a big enough player base to sustain the game and sustain the amount of money to keep it alive, basically, once they got that money, they give up. On purpose, by the way. They basically give up on purpose, move on to another game. It's basically, I have a problem, make the solution instead of fix the solution. I have a problem. Basically, what Hoyoverse is doing is they are making the game, and then when it has problems, after they got their player base established, their whales and whatnot established in the game, They move on to another game and make that game better than the game before it. And then after that, they do the same process. Get their whales, get their casual players. Oh, this game is the best game that Hoyoverse has ever made. HSR could never, Genshin could never. Okay, next thing you know, boom, that game makes the same mistake. They give up on it after it's got its whales, move on to the next. And they just keep repeating that process over and over until people either figure it out that they keep doing this over and over and they're just going to keep shitting over their older games after a while or whatever. And honestly, from a business standpoint, it's genius. Because in the gacha space, obviously with these being free-to-play games, the only way they survive is by getting whales. Whales are the most important people in the gacha space. The most important people, because you don't need that many of them. There's not that many whales in Honkai Star Rail, Genshin Impact, or even Honkai Impact 3rd, but there's enough to keep the game alive, and that's the only thing they care about. Because even with the free-to-play or Dolphins, if they're even advertising this game in a good way, that's bringing in new people that can spend money on the game. So people like me even trying to, have hope and play Honkai Star Rail until like the Fake Collab. Even people like me are keeping the game alive by just playing it because it's another number on the graph. It's another number on the graph that shows that the game is good because people are playing it. That's my theory. And that also goes into his theory that Hoyoverse is playing the long game. Because this is now they got 3 games in cycle right now that are big and that everybody's talking about. Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero. And Honkai Star Rail and Honkai Star Rail, Genshin Impact, and hell, even Zenless Zone Zero right now, to a degree, are making enough money at the moment where if they wanted to, they could just give up on Zenless Zone Zero too and move on to their next game, as he showed earlier. Which, if I'm right, and I think I am, based on the cycle, we'll see what happens to Zenless Zone Zero. I think Zenless Zone Zero basically tells us everything we need to know, though to be honest, I think Honkai Star Rail already did, because if you didn't notice, with the 2.0 anniversary for Honkai Star Rail, the first thing they showed you, first of all, was, first thing they showed you was go straight to Warp to summon for the new character, and then they put a bunch of whale events in your face. If that ain't telling me that they're focusing more on the whales with this game than anything, I don't know what to tell you. I've never seen anything like that where they, for an anniversary, pandered towards one character and then just put you towards the whale events. Like, there's no way. There's no way. And it really sucks. Because the new character, Casterus, she looks freaking awesome. But because she has, and yeah, here we go. Because she has the global passive in the game, which is already predatory as shit. But then you give her all the animations. You have, have her be the main thing that kind of shows towards the, the whale event and everything like that. Like, bro, what are we talking about? I think I've played enough gacha games to know where this is kind of going. And it really sucks. Because I want Honkai Star Rail to do good. I love this game. A lot of people love this game. But the direction it's going in is just not healthy, bro. It's just not healthy. The story's not getting better. It's actually getting worse, according to what I'm hearing. Like, they just completely stopped putting effort into it. Obviously, older characters are basically getting to the point where you can't even use them anymore in in-game content. Like, they're basically useless. Like, they gotta do their buffs, and we'll see how those go, because they still haven't done that yet. Like, I don't know why they're doing this, because honestly, they have shown, like, for instance, Genshin Impact, Fontaine was freaking beautiful. They have shown that they can make a good story. They have shown that they can make a good game. Obviously, with the early game of, Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, and obviously Zenless Zone Zero. They have shown that they can do what they need to do, and they got the money, they got the people to do it, but for whatever reason, greed keeps getting in the way, and their heads, I think, this is my theory, that they're just trying to create an ecosystem of games where a bunch of whales are playing the games and giving them money. And they don't care really about the free-to-play player base outside of them praising the game for a little while. And getting people to spend money in the game. After they got that, they give up and move on to the next. That's what I think is going on. That's my theory. And I might be right based on what I'm seeing here. This is the second time in a row this happened around the second anniversary where now people are feeling like they've given up on the game and that they're not even trying anymore. And that all the money that's being put into this game is now being put into the newest gacha game, which in this case will be Zenless Zone Zero. We'll see how Zenless Zone Zero does because it's coming up on its first anniversary too. But once it hits that second anniversary, if it continues to go down the same cycle where it feels like they gave up on the game, that'll tell me everything I need to know. And honestly, for me, if they fuck up the Fate Stay Night collab, because I'm sticking around for Honkai Star Rail to see how they do the Fate Stay Night collab with all these global passes and whatnot, I'm just done with Hoyo games at that point. Like, I'm gonna be real. I'll probably be done because then at that point I will already know what they will do with Zenless Zone Zero. That's my theory. You're free to disagree with me in the comments down below, but I think that's what they're doing. And this latest Casterus event, with the 2.0 anniversary and how they showcased everything so far doesn't show you that. I don't know what does, bro. I don't know what to tell you at that point.
And to connect this all back to my original point where I was just simply wondering why wasn't I super interested in the 3.1 story, it's because of all these issues and differences between how the game used to be and how it is now. Like, it's genuinely harder to enjoy something when it's surrounded by a plethora of problems that aren't being addressed by the people that made those problems. Like, let me give you a real life example. You could be at a restaurant with the best food on the planet, but if the restaurant smells awful and the service from the staff is terrible and you have to sit on a rickety old chair without a table in front of you, are you really going to be going to that restaurant super often? And honestly, I don't really think so, because despite the food being good, the overall experience is bad. This is the same with HSR at the moment. The story presentation isn't great, the power creep that doesn't allow me to use my characters sucks, the lack of content that doesn't give me anything to do isn't fun. So, even though I enjoy the actual story itself and I love the characters in the game, and when there's content to play, I enjoy that too, but it just doesn't end up mattering because the experience overall isn't amazing. Right? Like, if the company seems to care about the game less now compared to how much they seem to care back in the early Penacony era, then that directly affects how much players like me will enjoy the game. And what I feel all this has been doing as a result is not only making me less interested in the story aspects of the game, but honestly just the game as a whole. It really doesn't feel like Hoyo is putting as much effort into the game as they used to, and that feels frustrating as a player because at the end of the day, I'm just a gamer and all I want to do is play the game. But instead, what I feel is happening is that Hoyo is eroding the trust and the goodwill that players have in them. It basically feels like they've been riding the high of Penacony for so long at this point that for some reason they don't see that people just want more, and what we're currently getting isn't enough to outweigh the problems the game has. And to be clear, I do realize that this may just be me looking back on the era of the game with rose-tinted glasses and nostalgia, but nostalgia doesn't come from nowhere. Like, if I didn't enjoy the game back then, I wouldn't care about how much effort there was from Hoyo in comparison to now, but I do. I miss when it felt like Hoyo was putting in their top effort, because when they do, they make banger products that pretty much everyone is happy with.
Bro, Bellow Ball, everybody remembers when that theme came on when you fought Cocolia, bro. When you pulled that spear out of the ground for the first time, everybody remembers that shit. Everybody. Or when Deng Hun split the sea, the Lofu. Everybody remember that shit, bro. That shit was peak. Or you had to fight the freaking Eon, bro, like with, the general and everything. Like, come on, bro. They were cooking. They were cooking, bro. I feel like that was the time when they were putting in their best effort. Or, like, once again, early Penacony. But for some reason, they just stopped caring. Once again, I have my theory, but, it doesn't make sense. Usually, when you're doing something good, you want to keep the gravy train going, bro. You want to keep putting in that work so that your players are happy. And so that, because obviously, if the players are happy, you get more money, especially in a game like this. But I think it's gotten to the point where it's like they just gave up because they know that people will put money in the game regardless because of the fact that it's just, they like the game. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
And on the other hand, when they don't, you get the current state of HSR where people don't want to play the story and they don't want to pull all the new characters and they don't want to deal with the problems the game has anymore. Like, when you reach a point where you've burnt through the goodwill your players have for the game, that's when you should be thinking, okay, it's time to kick it into high gear and get that goodwill back.
Yeah, but in this case, Hoyoverse is already working on the next game that they're probably going to shit over, which is Zenless Zone Zero. I think that's the stage we're at right now. is they have stopped caring about Honkai Star Rail. They'll put in just enough effort to keep the players around, or in this case, you know, the Fate Stay Night collab is the one thing keeping players around, at least a lot of them. And then after that, oh, well, this game's got its whales. It's got its people that are already spending money on the game. Now to move on to the next one, it's like they create a game, make it good, make it have problems, but then instead of fixing the problems the game has, now they just create another game and move over to that one. They take all the resources that they make from the previous two games and then keep it going, and the cycle continues. And it really sucks because they could really make. They don't need to be making they don't need to make 7 new gacha games like they announced recently. They don't need to be doing all that. They can if they want, but they don't need to. They could just focus on the games that they have already and make those ones good. Like, come on, bruh. And they've shown they can do it. Hell, Genshin Impact had a glimpse of hope with its story for a little while when we had Fontaine, bro. Like, Fontaine was freaking peak. And then they dropped Natlan, and instead of the Nation of War like we thought it would be, we got the Nation of, I don't know, Teletubbies and shit. I don't know. I don't even know, man. I don't know, bro. I don't know, bro. It doesn't make sense to me.
But to me, it just doesn't feel like Hoyo is doing that. That's just how I'm. Feel free to comment down below or join my Discord link in the description to talk with me about it. Anyway, as always, thank you very much for watching, subscribe, and if you haven't already, maybe give my other videos a shot too.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Once again, if my theory is right, bro, then Honkai Star Rail is already cooked, and it's just a matter of time before they do it to Zenless Zone Zero. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm not perfect, I'm human. I can only go off of what I've seen. And so far, it looks like Honkai Star Rail is not looking like it's in a great state, which really sucks because the game is really, bro, this game should be the best game that Hoyo got. Like, screw talking about Genshin Impact and all that. This should be the best game they got, bro. Like, this should be their #1. But right now, it ain't looking that way. And I think it's because they gave up. But we'll have to see. Once again, I guess, I'm way too optimistic, I guess you could probably say. And I'm just trying to see if they'll turn things around in time for the Fate Stay Night collab. But if they don't, it's like, I don't know, man. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. But without further ado, Shikai Shinobi signing off. I know I yapped a lot in this video, but it just had to be said. But leave your thoughts, leave your comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.